Sherrick Dermott,
Here.
Brent Jordan,
Present.
Derek Gander,
Present.
Dr. Michael Joseph,
Here.
John Hurd,
President.
Riley Hartwell,
Here.
and Jeff Coe.
Present. Okay, next up we have the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand and join me. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Okay, first up, you got the agenda before you. I'd be happy to entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Derek.
I'll second.
By Riley. I saw the option first. Please vote.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Okay, motion passes. Great. First up, reports. We got celebrations. All right. I think we got a few people here as well. So on the celebrations, first up, we had a career day at Stapleton Elementary School. It was observed on a beautiful spring day with a variety of engaging events. Students started the day viewing a video of professionals describing their work and skills they used to successfully perform it. The kids enjoyed a career day parade and the opportunity to dress for their dream career. There's a few future educators in there too. That was great. Next up, we've got the National History Day. Each year, National History Day affiliates nominate one middle school teacher for the Patricia Beering Teacher of the Year Award. This year, Heather Van Otterloo from South Middle School is the Junior Division nominee from Missouri. Nominees for the Beering Award demonstrate a dedication to teaching that goes beyond the classroom. These educators are leading examples for their peers and invaluable resources for their students. The national winner will be selected by a committee of experienced teachers and historians during the National History Day contest this June. Next up, Alexandra Carson. So Joplin High School Introduction to Journalism students sharpened their writing skills by creating children's books. Alexandria Carson submitted her writing to the Neosho Arts Council Spring Art Challenge and won first place for her book, James Complains. One of the judges commented, "It's a wonderful, count your blessing story, and the illustrations are out of this world." Pictures from her book. Next up, we've got the All-Area Academic Excellence Team. The Joplin Globe and MSSU have partnered for 36 years, recognizing outstanding area high school seniors and their most influential educators. Judging for the All-Area Academic Team is based upon high school cumulative grade point average for 7 semesters and ACT scores. 3 Joplin High School students, along with their most inspiring educators, were named this year's impressive team. Ben Watkins, our first one, he's looking forward to a career in engineering with a goal to improve society, have a meaningful career, and support his family. And his inspiring educator is Colonel Joshua Ritz. Next up was Levi Stokesberry, also a career in engineering. His goal is to finish college, find a job, and eventually complete a master's. And his inspiring educator as Mr. Donald Carey. And then finally we have Patrick Bernick. His career is undecided and his goal is to live his life in a way that can look back and be proud. So congratulations to our All-Area Academic Excellence team. Next up, senior Caden Storm was awarded a $2,000 scholarship from the Missouri Broadcasters Association. Caden's creative Jet HD features include covering press conferences alongside mainstream media, making films, and testing Dr. Gilbert's taste buds with the Hot Sauce Challenge segment. Caden plans to attend Missouri Southern State University and study media. And also, Jet HD has received a $5,500 donation for helping produce a documentary observing the 10th anniversary of the Joplin tornado. The station teamed up with Joplin Proud and Joplin State Farm Insurance agents who funded the project. The donation will go back into the program to train future broadcasters. You can view this documentary on the Jet HD YouTube page. All right, next up, we've got the Drowsy Chaperone at the high school. So talented Joplin High School fine arts students skillfully entertained audiences this spring with their productions of The Drowsy Chaperone. The play follows a lonely Broadway fanatic who is transported into a musical comedy. As he listens to a recording, the characters appear in his apartment. Mayhem, hijinks, and shenanigans ensue. Next up, we've got the Golden Apple. So we had 4 Joplin school educators that have been announced as winners of the Joplin Area Chambers of Commerce 2021 Golden Apple Awards. The Golden Apple program has recognized excellence in the teaching profession for 36 years. The Joplin Schools winners are Stephanie Reether from Cecil Floyd Elementary, Kathy Nicodemus from Irving Elementary School, Cheryl Sieber from North Middle School, and Shada Greenlee from Joplin High School. So congratulations to all of you, the Golden Apples. All right, and congratulations to the entire class, Joplin High School class of 2021. We had students, parents, faculty, and the community all excited to see us have a graduation ceremony. This time was on our home turf. We celebrate our students' hard work and commitment over the last 13 years. The 2021 graduates we missed, but will always be our Eagles. There's a picture from the graduation last week. And then we have recognition of some state awards. So Joplin FFA competed at state, I think. Same group. Okay. So I've got a couple people that are here. If you're here, when I call your name, I'd like you to come up here towards this podium. First, thank you. First, we have Emily Nelson. Emily, I saw you come in. Congratulations. She took 7th in Group 1. All right, excellent. Great job. Let's get a picture here. Great. Okay. Next, Jonah Henson. Jonah, are you here? Yes, he is. Okay.
What pictures?
Yes. All right, Jonah took 20th in the Group 1 competition, so. Yeah.
And then I think we have a do-over.
All right. Great. Next up is,
Was there a parent wanting this one?
Kathy, yeah. You want to come get it? You come up here while I get Graydon up here. Come on, Graydon.
Okay, there's three.
Hopefully Graydon's here. His parents are. But you guys can come up here too if you want. All right. Graydon took 26th in individual Group 1. Congratulations. 7th place team event. And I guess that's it. His brother came up already, so.
Yeah, you can accept it for me.
All right, congratulations, Wyatt. He took 34th in the individual Group 2, and as a team, took 7th in Group 1. So congratulations, all 4 of you. And we could, I think it's okay to dematch real quick just for the photo. Is that okay? Yeah, sure. Thank you. James. James, come on up. James, he's supervising the agricultural experience program, and he got a proficiency award at state. So he was also a state delegate recipient. So get a picture here. All right, congratulations. We got a lot of talented folks. I was able to see the FFA team off when they left for state. That was very nice. And then last but not least, we got the Chiefs Redcoats here. Okay, it's not that. It's the Project Lead the Way. So we've got some recognition. Are they going to?
They're going to
Talk to
present,
us? Okay.
and their teacher, I think, is going to
All right.
start us off. Deanna?
Come on up here. Thank you, guys.
Good evening. My name is Deanna Anderson, and I teach at Franklin Tech. I'm the Skills USA Lead Advisor. And tonight you are going to hear from some of our students from the Project Lead the Way, competing in our national Skills USA competition. And they will be held during June, but it's going to be virtual. Usually it's in Atlanta, it's going to be virtual. Project Lead the Way is a national STEM curriculum taught through a collaboration between Joplin High School and Franklin Tech. And we have 2 distinct programs, biomedical and engineering. Each of these are 4-year programs. The first 2 years are taught by Joplin High School teachers, and the last 2 years are taught by Franklin Tech teachers. These programs inspire students to question what's possible and prepare them for long-term success. Project Lead the Way, students engage in hands-on activities, projects, and problems that are reflective of real-world challenges. This compelling real-world approach empowers students to learn essential in-demand skills validated by the leading companies while also providing an invaluable connection between students and their learning in the classroom today, but what will apply to their futures tomorrow. The LTW has been in Joplin schools for 6 years. These students you will hear from are from the Engineering Capstone program. They are Christopher Anderson and David Fiskus, and their final team member is Anthony Dooley. He's not here tonight.
So we are the posture keepers, and we have your back. My name is Christopher Anderson. I'm David Fiskus, and Anthony will be up here hopefully with us eventually. He has quickly here tonight. So who we are, we're a team of engineering students through the Project Lead the Way courses. We are in the capstone course of EDD, which stands for Engineering Design and Development. And what we do in that class is that we have to find a problem that's in the real world, and we have to develop a solution to that problem. So with our problem, we are taking the drum harness from marching band, and we are trying to create a new brace that goes onto the lower back to prevent from lower back pain. So as you can see here in this lower picture here, we're trying to prevent the L1 through L5 region from people developing chronic back pain. We did research through the National Chiropractic Association, and it states that young adults that have been involved with marching band develop chronic back pain, and it could become 20% chronic by the time they're into their middle-aged adults.
So with research for our device and our back brace, we went to Dr. Carlson, who has his own practice in Joplin at Carlson Chiropractics, and we talked to him about what would be the best way to distribute weight in the body to take pain and pressure away from the lower spine. And as he's talked, the lower back is at optimal strength performance when it has vermin and trying to get the weight onto the hips instead of onto the lower back.
So what we're trying to do, as you can see in these lower pictures with the proper and improper position, we're trying to keep the back from looking up here in this red to where they're leaning backwards. And so when the natural tendency of someone that puts on the drum, the natural tendency is to lean back, and that causes the pain in the spinal cord. So for our justification, we have young adults that have back problems when they become into their middle age. And so what we're trying to do is trying to prevent that through the L1 through L5 lumbar discs, and then the T1 through T12 spinal gel discs that go in between those lumbar pieces.
So for application, after going and talking to previous people who've actually participated in band and marching, and then also with Dr. Carlson taking all that information in, we looked at the best way to apply a brace to our back that would take and distribute weight properly, and that is where we come up with our product.
So as you can see in this diagram here, the drum line has that arrow pointing down to their lower back, so where they're standing at a position kind of like this. What we're trying to do is trying to prevent that position from being pushed back to looking more like the drum major in the front of the diagram, to where they're more straight and square with their back, so that way there's no pressure being applied to the lower back. So these are some of the already existing products that we developed our idea from. The first one is going to be the ABS Pearl drum harness, and what that is a piece that goes up into the top part of the back, and it does not support the lower back. So it doesn't really do a whole lot with the lower pressure of the back being applied with the drum itself.
So then we have the drum belt, which also provides support
For the lower back.
for the lower back. And what we found with these products after looking at them is they provide one support or the other. There's not only lower back support, there's upper back support. There's nothing that really helps with the majority of it, and that's what we were trying to do.
So this is our product here that we developed from the ABS monocosto. So what we did is we inverted this design so where it could fit the lower concave of the back to keep it in its proper position. So I'm going to show you what a person does with a natural tendency with the drum on before they put this brace on. So with the drum on, you can see that his natural tendency is to start leaning back. They lean back because they're trying to counteract the weight of the drum. So when we apply this brace on here, what it's going to do is it's going to prevent them from being able to lean back, and it's going to keep their lower back in its proper position, like Dr. Carlson mentioned to us. So now he's in a more proper position for holding a weight that's out in front of you. And now that this brace is here, he's not leaning back, and it's kind of resisting against him leaning back. So what it does is it helps keep that lower back in its proper position.
Another thing with this brace is so that it's more universal to multiple sizes, because, not everybody's the same size. These clips are very easy to take off, and then it's very adjustable. You just flip the strap and then extend.
So with our testing of how we developed our testing results, we took two separate groups of types of testing. We started with testing with standing with the brace on. So what that demonstrated was just holding the drum while you're just standing in one place. And then we did it with walking, so that demonstrated when you are marching or when you're walking at a parade or a performance. And they have different test results for different things.
So when we took all the data from our testing, we looked at experience versus inexperience to show their discomfort level when wearing the brace, and while having the drum on and seeing where they're at. And then we had just male versus female, seeing the difference. We expected there to be a bigger difference between experience and inexperienced, because with experienced people, they already kind of have that back pain from wearing those without a brace anyways. So even with the brace, we still expected them to feel a little bit more than if someone who just threw it on for the first time. And so with our prototype, after going through and testing different materials and building it, it came out to about $83.35. Other products are in the range of $80 to $90, and with a resale value about $86.
And we came up with those costs based off of the already existing products that we mentioned before, and we were wanting to keep it within that ballpark for just the brace itself, not including the harness, so that this could be attached to any harness itself. So our next steps in our design process, we're going to be working with ergonomic professionals and Dr. Carlson. We had a meeting with him recently, and he is ecstatic about our product. It actually fits really well in the lower back. And then after that, we're going to try working with a plastic confections lab or company to make it out of the ABS plastic, which is what the harness is already originally made out of, to keep it with the same functionality and material that it's already made out of. Thank you.
Is here for you. And just to remind you, they took first place in Missouri, and now they're going on the state. So, sorry, So congratulations, Christopher.
Picture there, I do too.
Oh, I'm sorry. I should have honked. Congrats. Good job.
Dr. Moss, I might just add in there, this is why we exist. And this coming from the high school level of their senior capstone, these guys have actually already graduated and they are still in it. But thinking back of a lot of the things that we have done the past couple of years, kind of building in some more PLTW at the middle school level, this is the final products that we try to get our kids to. So they did a phenomenal job.
Great job, you guys. Represent well. Okay, next up, we've got the Board Finance Committee. Dr. Joseph, you want to share anything from our meeting? I mean, I don't hate to put you on the spot, but
Ronnie Rose,
Well, I think,
Finance
the
Committee.
main thing was about the salaries. And I think there was good equity across the board, and we are closing the gap with our other district schools. So I think everything looks good,
I
and
agree.
financially, we're strong.
Well, that's good. I agree. It was great to see that we're making progress to incentivize bringing people in, but also incentivize keeping those experienced teachers. So it's a fine balance, and appreciate the effort on it. Next up, Dr. Moss.
Our first item on the data report is a construction update, and I believe I see Michael Wishmeyer with Corner Greer coming to the desk.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Michael.
Thanks for having me. We learn great things in these meetings every time. I just learned sitting in the audience that Chad Greer is a product of FTC that I didn't know before. So congratulations, you guys.
Grow your own.
Aaron, Height, and Crossland and Chad both have family duties today, so I'm going to give you guys an update on all the projects and try to answer any questions for the construction update for you. So, Dover Hill, this will be about Dover Hill and Castleton. So, on Dover Hill, Mostly a schedule update. Package 1 is already in progress. If any of you have driven down Main Street, you've seen the D11, which is the largest dozer that's probably been in Joplin in a long time. It can move a lot of dirt. It's underway. Package 2, which is the building and the site, goes out to bid on June 8th. We're all hoping for the best. Let's all pray for good numbers. And we're still anticipating construction completed in August of 2022. Kelsey Norman is underway. Aaron gave me an update this morning. They are at 40% complete on the way they track the project. We've used 50% of the contingency on some bad soils and a couple of other items, but we still have $25,000 in contingency. I think they hit a little bit of bad dirt on a ramp today, but it was maybe $1,500. So we're still well under budget, and the current completion date is November 4th, 2021. These are some pictures from today. We have CMU going up on site. As we go inside, you can see they've got metal decking up. The whole pad has been poured. This is, you can see along the side of that building where the larger opening is where the ramp is going. I think that's where we hit a little bit more bad dirt, but pretty much sticking to the schedule as it was originally provided to the board. Any questions on Dover or Kelsey? Good. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks. Thank you, Michael.
Okay, and then our next item is our health and dental care insurance reports. Dr. Langford, Shelley Toft.
On the health and dental report, Eric, if you would go to that third page. This is we've spent $5.8 million of our $7.4 million budget. The only thing I really wanted to bring to your attention is we're continuing to collect on our 9, 10, and 11-month employees and extra premium for the summer months. So you'll see that. You'll also notice the prescription claims is only showing like 43,000. We did receive a rebate again this last quarter for prescriptions like 106,000. So that's why that difference this year or this month. But the dental fund continues to track as expected. But I'm glad to answer any questions that you may have.
And then our next item is financial statements, staying with Dr. Langford and Shelley Toft.
Okay, on the financial statements, we will go to that third page, which is Dr. Langford's kind of condensed sheet that shows all of our revenues and expenses for the year. Our revenues are continuing to track pretty much the same as last year. And it always kind of looks skewed this time of year. You really see that difference. But what will happen in June is we will pay out 3 months of teacher salaries in June. So things kind of look a little distorted right now, but keep in mind, come June is when 3 months of teacher salaries actually hit the books. So otherwise, everything else is kind of in line with prior years. Have any questions?
Okay, thank you, Shelley. And then our next item in Superintendent Data Report is a recognition of advertisers sponsoring the Jung Field Scoreboard. And Dr. Sakata, I believe Matt Hyatt's coming to join you.
Yes, we wanted to update you. The project is underway. We've been, how far are we with the electric? Are we complete or getting close with that?
Yeah. Electric is finished as far as they can. We
Up to this point?
have stepped up near the scoreboard, and they began today to take the old scoreboard down.
Okay, very good. So it's well underway, as you well know, and this is your first look at the sponsors that go on the scoreboard. And we wanted to say publicly, many thanks for all the sponsors that contributed to the video board. You can see Tamco up at the top was the lead sponsor with this particular package. And then for both Freeman and Mercy are on right below on either side. And then Missouri Southern on the left, Bill's Electric and CFI. And then over on the right, Pinnacle Bank, Pro 100, and Crossing Construction. So those are the permanent, they have static signs that will be permanent on the display for the duration of their advertising agreement. Plus, part of that agreement are so many 30-second spots during the game with a professionally made commercial for their product or their service. So we're excited about that. And we're working on a script right now. Matt is working with Dorothy Alcins on a script and practicing through that so we can make sure we get the right number of spots throughout the game. What you also see that's kind of flipping through there, the side panel, where it's right now is Freeman, I believe that's a Pro 100, and so on, and it's moving, are additional sign packages that we can sell during the course of the game, and Dorothy's already sold a few of those. So that's really as unlimited as we want to put it up there, and we just have some examples up there, but we believe we're going to get a lot of new advertisers that will come in with those kinds of ads, and you'll see the ad for 10 seconds or whatever, and they'll scroll through and they'll come back and so on. So the video board also expands all the way across where you see those signs scrolling. So at certain points during the game, we can put those up there depending on what's happening on the field, and then the rest of the game we can have the full view of the video board. Has anything you want to talk about?
No, I just want to say it's been a great project and a great team effort of our people, and we're all very blessed to work in a community that will support us like this, and so it's been great and exciting to see it getting started here in the next few weeks.
I wanted to just remember too, we didn't get a picture for you, but Train, who sells us, or we buy all their products for our heating and ventilation system, also purchased a 5-year agreement on the time clocks. So the time clocks between plays. And so we have visuals of that too, but I want to make sure that we give Train a shout out as well. And we also got a $1,000 donation from an individual who wanted to contribute. So we're excited about that and everything that's, and so the video board really made a big difference in terms of helping us to get part of the way through with the press box that we'll talk to you about.
Matt, am I reading that correctly? Instead of a Jumbotron, it's the Tamcotron? Is that right? That's awesome.
They have
Love it.
naming rights to their agreements, and it's going to be the Tamco.
All right. And when will this be complete? You may have said it, but I didn't catch you.
The video board itself is scheduled for delivery in late June.
Okay.
So we hope a few weeks after that it will be complete. We're hoping to do training, our first round of training in late July, early August. And then our red and white scrimmage, which would be about August 14th, I think.
Okay.
As kind of the first trial run with it, leading up to week 2, September 3rd, which will be our first home game.
Great. Thank you.
What kind of cost is it on the scrolling side?
I would have to ask Dorothy.
As far as what she's charging,
Yeah, what are they charging, to do the,
we can get back with you on that. Yeah,
I would hate to get involved.
yeah.
well, I'd like, someone asked me and then of course
Right.
I'm business owner.
Yeah, we'll get back with you because, and then she's got a certain number of times they're going to scroll through, so I don't want to give you wrong information, but yeah, we can get back with you. Good question.
Well, I think that brings up a point. We've had donations to help us get this, but it's also potentially income producing henceforth.
Yes.
And if there's interest in those
Right,
scrolling,
that's
that's
Right.
encouraging.
Right. In fact, I believe she already has one individual that's wanted to sign up for a 5-year agreement. So we're not done collecting, as Dr. Moss said, collecting money towards this project.
I tried to get Dorothy to come tonight, but she's a little bashful when it comes to the
Yeah,
board. So,
she is.
But a lot of you may not know her role But, well, she doesn't go across the bachelor, she does.
Yeah.
But she actually works out of my office under the communication side of my role, and she's one of the two doing much more than I have in that capacity. But she does do a great job for raising money for the district and raising scholarship money for her students as well, and so she's a valuable asset.
And just so you know too, everybody's involved, and Dorothy and Matt and Brad Douglas and several others, and we've all been working on several videos. And then to make sure that we get some things up and running. And so we want to get this thing ready as best as possible, as good as we can get it the first day. So we have a really good first game day experience. And because this is going to be a whole different ball game. It's going to be very scripted throughout the game. So there's a lot of, but it's an exciting challenge, and Brad and his kids are going to be able to get it done, and we're excited about this.
We've actually already started working on a lot of the player shots and that type of thing, is we won't start school until late August. A lot of that needs to be done now. And so as soon as the video board was approved, they went to work on that stuff in the spring.
So they're on it.
Excellent.
And I think there's about a group of about 12 to 15 students in the game. So it's a significant group that we need to be able to accommodate for this. And I know I saw Facebook pictures of all the kids that work every game, and it takes a crew to put on a video production.
Just an observation that's really neat about this, and I hope everyone appreciates in the community, and I know Carrie and I have had lots of conversation, but in this region of the country, there's not a high school stadium that has more of a legacy than this stadium does over here. And so the decision that was made years ago that will continue to be Joplin High School Stadium carries with it a legacy that's worthy of that commitment. And the updating that you're being done, I just compliment the community, as already has been mentioned, those who have stepped up, and to see when people come to play a game here, they're playing in a stadium that has more history than anyone as far as a high school stadium is concerned in the area, in the region.
And we will celebrate that in some of the scenes that you will see on that video board.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we've got public comments. Any comments? No public comments. Next up, we've got the consent agenda. Be happy to entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
All right, thanks, Derek.
Second.
Thanks, Dr. Joseph. Any discussion? Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, that motion passes. Thank you. Next up is John Field Press Boxer Model.
Okay, Michael and Dave are both here, and we're going to talk to you a little bit about the bidding process, and I don't want to give away too many details. We'll let Michael tell, and Matt Hyde as well. Because we wanted to, collect as much and get as much money as we told you we would towards the project, that's why this thing is run down kind of to the wire at this point. So this was kind of the drop dead time whenever we could get this project done and get it off the ground. So Michael, go ahead, and if you want to talk about the bidding project.
So we were fortunate to have two bids for what's considered a smaller project for some of the other stuff we do in town. So we got two bids, and we vetted the low bidding contractor, made some phone calls to make sure we felt they could complete the project. So we moved forward with a recommendation to the board of SCI contracting with the low bid. They had a low bid number and two alternates. One alternate was for some repairs to the aisles going up Jung Stadium. We wanted to make them ADA compliant, so we're widening the center aisles and adding handrails all the way up, and I believe Dave's team is spearheading most of that. And then the second alternate was for, if you look at the lower picture, this is the elevation facing the field. Everything above the roof line, there's some decorative lighting and some metal work and an eagle's head that would be lit from the building on pin-mounted lighting. So there would be a light mounted on the building facing back at that eagle. The design of that eagle head sign hasn't been finalized, but we think it's stamped metal. Everything above the roof line would be alternate number 2, which came in as a separate line item, and I'll let Carrie go through any numbers you guys need if you need them. Do you want to talk about the sponsorship?
Well, as you can see over on the left, Michael and Jerry Lynn Joseph made a significant contribution towards the press box, and that is an advertising agreement as well, just like the other agreements that you just saw for the video board. So it's on there for a duration, and that really made a big difference in helping to push this across the finish line. And so towards the whole project. So when you talk about everything that we collected for the video board and the donation, the advertising agreement for the press box, we put all that together. That's what we're talking about when it comes to try to make sure that we accumulated as much as we could to take care of the whole project. And then also, we had some additional work that we have to make sure that it gets done. And one of them is a chair lift. So because of the ADA compliance and the fact that we're adding on to the press box, we need to put a chair lift in. And it's something that would also enhance the facility for anybody that's accessing the press box during the game. We could obviously have a student that needs to access it, or an instructor, or anybody that's working the game, whether it's be temporary or permanently. If they're part of the game experience up in the press box, they would have that accessibility to get up there, which we currently don't have right at the moment. So what we are asking is that between both bidders, that Sproul's Construction be recommended. One of the things I want to call your attention to is also alternate bid 1, which is $20,000, is covered by the school district already in the cap outlay projects that you approved earlier this year. So that $20,000 was already going to be allotted to by the school district. And actually, we saved $10,000, Dave, because I think the other bid he had was 30. The independent bid he had was 30. So we got that down to 20. And then with the base bid of 560,000, going ahead and adding this company to allow them to do the concrete step work, and then also with the metal and the lighting that's on top, would bring the figure to $628,935.
Any questions?
I'd like to say thank you to Dr. Joseph for that. I think that's coming up. I'd make a motion to approve.
Okay. Been a motion made by Derek,
Second
by Riley.
Before we jump to
Questions?
that, I think
Questions?
another question or comment, if I may. First of all, love the whole idea, love the project. I think it looks great. Juggy Field is fabulous. The way we're going to do the video for this proposal, I actually think it looks awesome. That being said, the one thing I would call out a couple of things before we rush on a motion on this is there's 2 things that concern me. And one is the disparity in the bids. And that anytime I've ever done that in my life, and I see that kind of disparity, I say, hold on a second, let's go get a third bid. Something's off here. And you guys have a huge variation in the bid. And so there's a couple of things when I think about what we do as a board. One of it is that we're very good stewards of the money in our community. And so I say, hey, pause. And I always think when there's timeline, what's driving timeline? Is it I got to have it, or is it nice to have? This is clearly, hey, nice to have, and I'm leaning way in on let's do this. But then I say, maybe we should pause and go get that third bid to make sure we have that right. And then the second concern that I have is, and I'm sure everybody watch the news, read a newspaper, go to the store, buy something these days. We're seeing a very strange bubble right now, and it's really impacting this construction world. And what you're seeing is you see a scarcity of resources when it comes to materials. And I face this in my own business, and I push many projects off because I can't get the materials at the historic prices. And there's this big bubble that we're facing this year. It's hard to get people to come to work, so the cost of labor has been driven up. There's a lot of people chasing a very few amount of materials and the labor. And so it's literally shooting costs up to where I haven't seen them ever. Do I think that's going to continue? No. Do I have a crystal ball that says, hey, when's it going to come back down? No. But I would imagine as we go through this year, we'll hit the end of that bubble, and then those costs come down, both in labor and materials. And so when I kind of digest and think about this, and I wanted to bring this up before the board, is it's a great idea, love it, but would prudence say, hey, get the third bid and push this off a year and let that bubble pass, and we get a better value for the dollars? I think it's worth discussing.
I'd like to mention something about taking a third bid, because it would have been great if we had more bids. I love more coverage on these things. I don't know the logistics of getting a third bid, because these numbers are out on the street. So you can't really call somebody else, one more person in to bid on a number that's already gone public, because they have an advantage. It would be unfair for the two contractors that already bid, possibly, unless you washed the whole plate and started from scratch. But their numbers would still be public.
But don't we have a performance bond on the builder? So we're covered that he will do it, and he's going to be bonded to make sure he gets it done.
You have bid bonds, performance bonds, and a lot of insurance coverage, so the district can't get hurt. And we've talked about timeline. There was a certain number of days that these contractors proposed that they could finish this in. And I'm not as familiar with the winning contractor as I am with some other contractors in town. So we tried to do our due diligence and research them the best we could.
Yeah, and I appreciate that issue that you have, and it really validates the point that I was making, that there's very few contractors chasing a ton of work right now. And so this is they're enjoying a windfall that they've probably not seen before. And when I suggest if you push off a year and then rebid the thing, what does that look like?
I don't have my crystal ball, so I can't.
I mean, we need the press box to be able to control the scoreboard. I mean, theoretically, you need the space to put all the equipment and be able to run the scoreboard. And without that, I mean, it'd be virtually impossible, wouldn't it, to be able to run everything without the expansion to house what we need?
It would be a very, very difficult, cramped mess. And I don't know where everything would be, because we haven't even put all the equipment, because we've expanded the press box to be able to allow for the equipment to be where it needs to be, as well as extra people in the press box to make sure that the production runs. So it would be, it'd be like getting a bunch of people in Volkswagen probably, I don't know, but I don't know what else to say, but it would be very tight.
This includes that lift also, correct?
Yes, it does. Includes the lift.
Well, Dr. Sakita, what's the cost of the lift? What's the additional cost?
Right at $169,000.
And we have to have that.
We have to have
just so everybody knows.
build on
we have to have that.
Yes.
This, and I don't know if this can even be answered. Does the city of Joplin require the ADA compliance? Because
I took these drawings to Kathy at the city of Joplin, and once you increase the square footage to a certain number, you have to have accessibility and equity for ADA. So it's required by the city of Joplin.
are they requiring, and I'm about 99% sure we're already ADA compliant, and the restrooms down below, are they gonna require an ADA compliant restroom up top?
It does not require a restroom.
Because of the lift.
And that would have been significant cost to try to do something like that, just as you know.
Yep.
So.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Well, just one last comment is and we talked about this earlier, is even if you pull out the cost of that lift, and the way you're supposed to look at this stuff is what's my cost per square foot? And the cost per square foot, the way this comes in, it's way out of range from what's normal and customary in my experience in life. And that's why I'm calling it out. It's not like I've done one building in my life. I've done hundreds of buildings, and I'm just saying the cost per square foot is extremely high for what is normal and customary for this type of space. And that's why I'm calling it out. To just say, hey, look, it might be worth a pause because that cost is so high. And please don't anybody misunderstand me. I love the idea. I think this is going to look awesome when it's done. It's just, is this really the right time to do it? That's what I'm saying.
These are great questions. The only wisdom that I have is we've done a bunch of buildings here in Joplin, and just recently I did a Sally Port for the City of Joplin Police, And it was a very small, once the scale goes down, the square footage numbers sometimes go up. And it was like 1,000 square foot garage, basically just cinder block, nothing to it, in this new market of materials and labor. And it was over $930 a square foot for just a small little 1,000 square foot addition. And this is probably bigger than the Sallyport addition. It's partially to do with the environment, the market we're in, material market, and the scale of the project. The square footage numbers don't scale. Like when the Dover numbers come in, there'll be a square foot number that's probably more in line because the square footage is so large. So the square foot argument, which is legitimate, sometimes is more difficult to zone in on a smaller project.
Sure, and you're right about that. And I wasn't saying, hey, this is $1 million building, what's an average cost? I was saying, hey, size things I've done in the past, where does that come in as a cost per square? And there's some special nuances with this, which you'd expect to pay a little bit more. But even with that, it's really high for what has been normal and customary. And that's the only reason I bring it up, because if it was, hey, 10%, 20%, okay, maybe I understand it, but it just seems like it's a lot more than what would be normal. And so I think it's worth discussing.
One of the latest studies in our industry, 1 year ago, material prices have gone up 146% in the last 1 year. So that could have something to do with higher square foot costs.
John, what is the price per square foot?
It's, I think we figured 300, without the top, it was right at $326 a square foot. Right around, with the trestle and all the decorative stuff on the top, it's about $367, somewhere in that range.
Dr. Joseph is correct. And you're talking a lot about building tonight, and something that I do in my line of work is work with video boards this size in athletics. And it is absolutely critical that we build this. So where the Tamcotron can be used in the fall. And that's something that'll be good for the whole community.
And this money is, a lot of that, these are donations that's covering the cost of this, correct?
Yes. There is a makeup from our cap outlay funds that we've come under on several projects through bidding for fiscal year 2022 that would cover the overage very easily from what we've collected versus what the total cost of the project is.
If you get more advertising, like it sounds like there might be some interest, will that go to refill the capital outlay?
Yes, it'll all go back towards the project because we're a little bit south, not a lot, but a little bit south, and we need to continue to bring that number down. And that would be the intent of the extra donations, or excuse me, advertising agreements.
And I don't know how many contractors we actually have in this area that'll take a smaller project. Because it is harder to make money on a smaller project.
I made a lot of phone calls to try and get coverage, and contractors are busy right now. Everybody's got enough work and they really can't push more resources out. Everybody has, we try to get as many people as possible.
And where's Sproul's out of?
Pardon?
Where's Sproul's out of?
Lamar.
I've seen their trucks and stuff.
They've been around for 30 years. Okay. It's done, I think they started in road work from the research that we did on it. And we called other school districts and got favorable recommendations. Everybody felt that they could complete the project.
Well, Michael, thank you for answering all the questions, and it just means that we all care about it. So appreciate the information.
All very relevant for all of us to know what we're getting into.
Okay. It sounds like it's something that kind of needs to happen for everything else to kind of fall into place on the dates with red and wire, the games and things like that. It's kind of one of those that have to have and want.
There was a motion by Derek and a second by Riley. If there's no further discussion, let's vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Recuse.
No.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Okay, next up, we've got Dr. Moss.
Okay, our next item is consideration of COVID safety precautions. I summarized for the board some pertinent facts in your document that relates to vaccines now being eligible for students ages 12 and up. The CDC has issued guidance stating that fully vaccinated individuals do not need to wear a mask. I gave you data on May 18th when I wrote the item that at that time we had 0 active employee and student cases. Today, we updated and we have 5 today. That number has been fluctuating somewhat back and forth. Our county and city numbers have stayed relatively flat. There has been some CDC recommendations that schools continue with their masking protocols through the end of this school year, and DESE came out with some more reopening guidance suggesting that that should be the case through summer school. We do begin our summer school on June 2nd. So taking all that into consideration and also kind of what's been going on locally, we would recommend that the board consider lifting the district's masking mandate. And our recommendation had stated at the conclusion of this regular school year. I've had some express interest to do it immediately. We have 2.5 days after tonight left of school. So I will leave that up to the pleasure of the board.
Dr. Moss, I think that those people who have mentioned that to you about immediately allowing our students to end the school year without masks have done so correctly. I'm in agreement with that.
I'll second, yeah.
And in addition to that, I think another thing that we're missing somewhat is that the idea that, I know we've had this conversation regarding if students are allowed to have outside visitors into the schools, and then in terms of what that looks like for field trips and all the different things that our students do every single day, especially in elementary school. And Jeff, I think at one time was a lunch buddy, right? And the Trek program, other things that require our community to come into our schools. And I think it's time that we also get back to that as well, and have a clearer policy to say that is the case. So I personally am in favor of including that in this motion and recommendation as well, in addition to the immediate removal of the mask mandate.
Riley, are you making a motion?
I'm saying that. I'd be happy to make that.
If you're making the motion, I'll second the motion.
I move to amend the consideration of COVID safety precaution recommendation to the board to include immediate removal of the mask mandate in the Joplin School District, in addition to reopening our schools to 2019 pre-COVID expectations.
I'll second.
And if I could clarify, one of the things is that we have talked about is, and we've actually started to relax a lot of those things in terms of field trips and pretty much as we start school this summer and into the fall, we're back to business as usual. And I think that's kind of the statement that you're looking for. Now, the board approved not that long ago a visitor management system. And so at certain times of the day, limiting just an open door policy to access to the hallways or things such as that, we would like to keep some of that in place just for our safety protocols, if nothing else. But I think the spirit of what you're recommending is, can we reinstate lunch buddies, Trek volunteers, volunteering, parents coming to school, just more of back to business as usual. Is that correct?
I agree with that. I think it's important as a board that we say those things, that people know that this is not the expectation any longer. So the communication side of this is what's really important to Riley, because I think people need to know the clear expectations as we move forward. It's not just as simple as a mask mandate.
Right. And I think too, I agree that you want to make sure that it's equitable across the district. So if South says, hey, we're going to keep doing this, can North say that, or can East say that? We want to make sure it's
You're correct,
evenly.
Jeff. And I think recently one of the issues that's been brought to my attention is that, there were some people who were upset at the fact that 5th grade graduation was virtual, and our graduation for our seniors had everybody in a room. Very few people had masks on. And there was really, aside from ticketing restrictions, there were really no other restrictions in terms of social distancing or masks. So I think that's what that's another thing in terms of equity
It's some
across the
parity,
district to consider.
Okay, so there's a motion by Riley, a second by Derek. Any discussion?
I think it's just important to note that COVID can no longer be the controlling factor that moves our district in a certain direction. It can still be considered, but it seems like every or most of the decisions we've made over the last year, we haven't taken into consideration any other element. We've only focused on COVID, and it's time to end that, and I hope that we can do so tonight. So
I also think it's also to note, if something goes terribly awry, the board is still able to meet and change our policy to
do what
meet
we
the
need to make
need.
things safe.
So I don't want people to say, okay, it's over today and nothing can ever change. There's no intent. But if things end up like they did in March of 20, we still have the ability to meet and make that change.
Well, you're right, Jeff. I think it's encouraging that we never had to close the school and we never had to get to those numbers. And I agree with the Newton County Health Department, and they made their recommendation to Dr. Moss.
Okay. If there's no further discussion, please vote.
No. Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, that motion passes. Thank you. Next up, agreement between Joplin Schools and Joplin Schools NEA.
So pursuant to Board of Education Policy HA, in April of 2021, the district began negotiating with JNEA. And we recognize JNEA as exclusive bargaining representation of teachers, counselors, and librarians. And purpose of the negotiations were to bring a tentative agreement on salary with JEA and some JESP coming up as well. So, the way this works with our negotiations we work with our unions every other year. So this year was language with JESP and salary negotiations, and then with JEA, it was salary negotiations to reach a tentative agreement, which we arrived at, I think, in April with both groups. And so we've asked them to come forward, and I'll ask you to introduce yourselves so the board can all know who's who with which union.
I'm Karen Ness, JESP president.
And I'm Crystal Stokes. I am a teacher at North Middle School, and I am the Joplin National Education Association, just so you know what JNEA stands for, president.
I'm Crystal Walton, the vice president of JESB.
Got it. Welcome, ladies.
Well, thank you for inviting us to the table. So Justin took my whole speech. He did. Last year he didn't, and this year he did. So just to reiterate, so JNEA represents all Joplin schools, teachers, librarians, and counselors, just so for knowledge, because we have some new board members. And so our focus this year was primarily on the salary schedule, and we always come to the table and want to thank not only the fact that we have a great union leadership for our executive board and our bargaining team, but also our collaboration with the district and the fact that they come to the table and listen. And I think that's a big part of having a quality union, but also knowing that we're here for the community and for the betterment of our kids. So just know that it's not just about the salary schedule, it's also about our communication with both our teachers and our teacher and union, and with you, the board too, so.
Pretty much, I would have to agree with what she said.
And when we make and just since we do have a lot of new members or we have our new members, this is a living document, so we will come to you every year and make you aware of what the changes are, but also that we are always looking for improving our union with the school board. So just so you know.
Can I ask you a candid question?
Me or?
Yeah, all three of you ladies. Sure. How did the process go?
Wonderful.
I thought it went very well.
Okay.
Well, this is Carrie's first time, so
it was our first time,
okay.
And so it went very well.
Okay.
It was a good process.
Well,
it's
thank
always
you.
wonderful.
You're important
I'm very
partners, and we
lucky.
want to make sure that we continue to build that strong relationship.
And I agree with you. I wanted to add that as well. I mean, through this turbulent time, we've talked about the mask mandates and COVID and those types of things. At least in my role, I'd say probably for Sarah and most of us here, that the unions have been very easy to work with through this time, and want to commend them for their cooperation to want to do what's best for kids, because that's why we're here. And I really feel like both of our unions, as they want to support both their members and the bargaining unit, they also deeply care about our students.
That's great.
Jeff, could we take 3 through 5 together, or do we need to vote on these?
We sure can. They're up here together, so we could take them together.
Real quick, Derek, before you go. As I looked at this, and I asked some of these questions previously to the administration, but I do think it's important for people who are watching to be able to have these answered. Dr. Moss, in terms of steps, I know over the past 10 years, the district has been in a significantly turbulent time in terms of finances. Dr. Langford has helped us completely turn that around. So we did have salary step freezes, okay?
Yes.
So right now we're at 21 steps after tonight, once this is passed, correct?
Yes.
And then the expectation would be that moving forward, every year we would add a step, correct?
Yes, that's been our practice for the last few years, and that's what we intended to continue with.
Okay. And my concern has always been in this is that how many employees do we have over the 21st step, those people who do fall in over that number. I think that's important because we want to just continue to incentivize those people that although it may not necessarily be good right now, help is on the way and it will continue to grow. So.
Could we clarify one point though, is when you mentioned 21 steps, that applies to the support staff.
Correct.
And
Yes.
With the teacher staff schedule.
It's farther.
It's in the
down.
30s,
But
isn't it?
5 years ago, it was
29, I
frozen
believe.
at 15. And that was just the way it had been forever. And then
Sure.
so year by year, this is the 5th step to the support staff. And when we started the process, we didn't do the teachers because they had, I think it was 32. And probably with the teachers, the optimum, in my opinion, that's my opinion, but is once you get to 35, you've kind of done that, But the support staff now is being treated more equitably for those who stay with the district.
Right. And that's what I think is really important in this is that we reward people who stay with us, and we're doing a good job with that, in my opinion. Sounds like you agree with that.
On both points, because that was one of our conversations at the table, is we want to make sure that our staff stays with Joplin and they're not leaving us maybe at year 25. They're staying.
So we're not the training ground for someone else.
Exactly.
Agreed.
And I think we're seeing the results of that because we're still looking at ranking, but also how much are we closing that gap between the discrepancies that were more glaring 4 or 5 years ago. And this is getting us to that point.
I'd also say, and of course, Dr. Langford has been wonderful to work with because he honors the experience of our teachers coming in. And so every year for the teacher salary schedule, we've had the opportunity to lift the gray area if you come in on a bachelor's. And so know that we have staff from other districts coming to us, looking at us, Joplin as a viable place to stay for the remainder of their career. So we, on our side, I know we were talking about ESP, but for teachers, we're also looking at that, retention also.
The one good thing, or one point, is it's sustainable. It's not something like you'd mentioned that we're having to pull money from.
CARES money or
It's
something.
sustainable, so it always stays, and I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that, Derek. We say numerous times that you don't want continuing obligations based on one-time funds.
Right.
So we have parceled out CARES Act money and other things that is not supporting this raise because we're doing it with our existing operating budget, revenue projections, and so forth.
I think you guys do a phenomenal job. I'm sure he's not down there. So thank you, Dr. Langford.
Derek, were you going to make a motion?
I am going to make a motion
One
to.
addition here, just so you know, if we take items 3, 4, and 5 together, I just want to make a note that the first two are with our unions and our collective bargaining agreements. The last one are salary schedules with other salary adjustments for non-bargaining.
So we ought to do those two.
I think we need to do the two together.
Two together,
first,
okay.
And then do the other separately.
Then I'll make a motion to approve item regular agenda item number 3 and number 4 together.
Second.
Motion by Derek, second by John. Discussion we've had, please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, that motion passes. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Derek, did I hear you offer another?
And I would move to approve regular agenda number 5, the salary schedules as presented.
Second.
All right. Derek moves, second by Dr. Joseph. Discussion, please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes, that motion passes too. Thank you to all of our employees. That's wonderful news towards next year. Okay, now we're ready to item number 6, accounts payable. Shelley and Dr. Langford. You see how I put it that way for you?
Okay, on the accounts payable, tonight we kind of hit one of those rare times where we do have 3 bill lists that actually hit on this pay period. So you'll notice that the accounts payable that we're bringing to you tonight is $10,592,000. And that represents 3 different bill lists from 427, 511, and 525. Kind of compared to this time last year, we did have 3 bill lists and it was 7 million, a little over 7 million, but some of the items that are hitting this time are some construction items with the Crossland construction on our Kelsey Norman and some architect fees and stuff like that on the Dover Hill that are in that. We also had a few, like the 95% group that had been previously approved of some curriculum. So those items are in there. Are there any other questions?
And I might just comment. For me to be quiet is hard to do, so I do want to make one comment. But Shelley does a fantastic job. But to me, this is important, and this sort of affirms the fund balance that we just look at on that one page, gives you the snapshot. Next year will be an anomaly year because, as she said, $10 million. And I thought, wow. But then Kelsey Norman, 40% done. So this year, with the Dover project going forward, it'll be harder to make that comparison because you're going to be outpouring.
They'll have those little A, B's, and C's to say, don't count these. Very nice, I like those.
So just expect next year the AP list to be
Maybe
a
A
lot
to Z.
bigger than what you've seen the last year. But it's a good thing.
All right.
I would make a motion that we approve payment as presented.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Brent. Thank you, Derek. It's been moved and seconded. If there's no further discussion, please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, the motion passes. Thank you. Number 7, again, Shelley and Dr. Langford.
No. Okay, the Fund Transfer Authority. DESI gives us the opportunity to transfer up to 7% of our the basic formula from the prior year. So that amount is $3,668,000, and so we are bringing that tonight to recommend that to come over to the Capital Projects Fund to help with future capital project needs as brought forth to the board.
And I might just clarify, this has to be done anytime you transfer amount greater than an expense that you could identify. And then it has to be a purpose. So she just stated the purpose is stated. We have building projects that are going on now, and as we all know, with the discussion about the cost of construction, we're going to probably need more money in those funds to complete that building process. So typically, we haven't been transferring that much, but this is the time that we need to do that because the Capital Projects Fund is going to be the place that we put money that we're going to need to deal with these construction expenses. So this resolution, next year, you may or may not be doing that amount, but the law does require that you state a purpose of why you're transferring more than you can say this specific need for, and it's the construction project and future building needs.
And it's moving from Fund 1 to Fund 3?
Fund 4.
Fund 4.
I would move that we approve the fund transfer.
Second.
All right. Motion by Derek, second by Dr. Joseph. Discussion, please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, that motion passes, I think. Last one up, the budget adjustments.
Okay, we're bringing hopefully our final budget revision for the year to you tonight. When we presented the budget last June, we know there were several uncertainties that were going on. COVID was fairly new. We had already had some withholding from our state. So we had to make some adjustments. We all know that the governor then released, a couple of months ago, released those withholding, and we have gotten trued up on where we should be this year to date on those revenues. And then we also received several CARES and HERF funds throughout this year. So, Eric, if you would go to that third page. And this shows like where we are expecting our fund balance. Let's see, right there. Yeah, right there. We're showing at the top of this page where our fund balance began for the year. We started with unrestricted funds of a little over 46 million. And we are showing then tonight, we have projected revenue of 122,800,000. And then we're projecting expenditures to be a little over 120 million, bringing us down to a projected unrestricted funds of 49 million. So that's a little increase of about 2.9 million that we're projecting for this year. The bulk of that is the one-time money that we've gotten from CARES. So then on the...
If we could, and this is for Sherry, because I remember the anxiety he had in June a year ago, we adopted a budget that at that point was a deficit budget. And that was, if you remember, she mentioned the state restriction. We lost money last year. We never got it back. We'll never get that money back. But the governor doing what he had to do, I'm not critical, he did what he had to do. Going into the year, he restricted in what we believe it really turned out $1.5 million. So not getting that caused us to have a deficit budget of about $1.7, $1.8 million. So because now the inflow of the CARES money that we could use to spend, but we didn't have to spend some other money that we received, that's how we saw this switch back to a positive budget. But the good news is the projected balances. It's very important right now for school districts to be in a fiscal position, because the reality is we are in a bubble and we don't know at what point. And I will also tell you that going forward, state funding will be minimal as far as increases, and there's lots of reasons for that we don't have time to go through. So we're going to really have to rely on our local assessed valuation that comes in more heavily than on the state unless something changes. And there's really not a will in Jefferson City right now to change much funding for public schools.
Any questions? No, I'd be happy to entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Motion by Derek, second by Dr. Joseph. Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, that motion passes. Thank you. Last up, pluses and deltas.
Jeff, I think a plus for us tonight was the ability to showcase what good working relations we have between management and the administration and labor.
I agree.
I think we also had a whole stack of kids that are going to go out and take on the world someday.
Proud to have them do it.
Maybe now.
They're already taking it on.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I think it's amazing that we have a community that will finance literally almost $1 million for a video board for our kids just to have and enjoy as they showcase their talents on the field. That's incredible.
We're in a
I think,
special place.
A plus is letting the kids finish the school year without a mask.
Freshmen can finally see who their neighbor is in their classroom.
My son will get to see what his girlfriend looks like. She's pretty.
What will he do when he finds out she may not be smiling?
Here's my son.
All right. On that note, maybe we should adjourn.
I would make a motion to adjourn.
All right, Derek.
Second.
Second by Dr. Joseph. Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.